Welcome to the Strong Talk podcast. I am Kalle Beck, joined by my co-host Michael Battolino, and actually a lot going on in the strongman world. Mike, we just wrapped up the Arnold Australia. A couple past guests competing there, including Trey Mitchell was just on about a month ago and made his pro debut. I know you know Trey, and
Why do they call him Trey?
because he's the third. He's Charles Mitchell the third, and they call thirds Trey. But still, one of my favorite lines in a podcast we've ever done.
People keep talking to me about it. Like within the past couple weeks, people have talked to me about that specific part of that podcast. And my reaction when, after knowing him for 5 or 6 years, I finally find out why people call him Trey.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
Nope, never.
Yeah, Junior if you're the second, Trey if you're the third. Makes sense. So Arnold Australia, Ronald Henley won, qualified for the Arnold 2019. Interesting events, very static show. Very static show. I mean, we got
Cool implements, as always.
Stander submit does some good looking implements. What were some of your thoughts on the Arnie down under?
Well, like you said, it was a very static show. It looked very busy from the bits that I watched. It was kind of a weird time, so I kind of had to scroll back and watch it. I didn't watch it live, but I watched different guys' videos on Instagram. It looked like a great show. It looked like some of the guys that competed in the Arnold from a couple weeks ago were a little bit beat up. I mean, that's kind of how this competition goes every year.
Yep.
I mean, very, very rarely do these guys get to come into the Arnold Australia fresh, and it's just, they don't plan the Arnolds so that just for the strongman, and these guys are trying to qualify for next year when they just got done competing this year. And Ronald Heinle, I know I didn't jump on that podcast with you to recap the Arnold, but one of the most impressive things that no one talked about, aside from like you and me, was Ronald Heinle, how strong he was on that axle a couple weeks ago. I mean, I don't think people realized quite how strong he is for not being. He's not the biggest guy out there. He's got to be under 330 or under. I mean, he's not.
I'd say probably if he's over 300, it's a
he's not.
stretch.
Yeah, I mean, he's not one of the bigger strongmen. So that was super impressive because he smoked those axle cleans.
Yeah, we met him at the Caz a couple.
Yeah, met him at
years ago,
Caz.
and he's thick. He's built like his back's huge. Obviously, he's 900 plus deadlifter, but not in strongman terms, definitely not the biggest guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone looked real uncomfortable with that axle, and yeah, he really smoked it at the Arnold.
So it's no surprise to me that he won.
Yeah, and it seems like he out of everyone, he looked the least beat up of the people that competed. I don't know, how or why, or he just didn't go all out. He didn't pull like a Quran style like last deadlift.
Yeah.
Even though I think what he hit like 930 or so at the Arnold. Nothing to sneeze at, but he looked pretty good. I think definitely a lot of the athletes looked more stiff on the log, especially that log. I heard that everyone said it was the hardest log they've ever done. The big 190 one, and that's why.
Is that 190 the same 190 as last year's?
Yes.
Because I know they okay, it is the same one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How about the 170? Is that the same log?
Yeah, same two logs.
Okay, so yeah, I mean those are probably the most challenging logs out there in competition.
Yeah,
I mean, if Dimitar didn't hit 190, I mean that's a tough log.
Yeah, he had trouble cleaning it. It looks like the hand openings are a little like they're cut out a lot. There's not much to leverage on, and there's so much weight. It's so long, and there's so much weight on each end that you can't. It's hard to get that spin. So definitely a hard log, but still some New Zealand. I'm not too so. Let me take your thought on this. Rongo Keane, local competitor there. Pretty much made his pro debut, I guess, at the Arnold Australia. He has dual citizenship in Australia and New Zealand, So they're saying it's a record for both countries. I mean, I don't think I'm the person to make the judgment on that, but
Interesting.
it's an interesting thing. I don't really know how that works. I've never really thought about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Dimitar's got dual citizenship too, but I don't know.
Uh huh.
I don't know kind of how they look at those records either. I
Yeah.
mean, but they did, make a point to talk about Rongo Keane making the record for both countries. But that's cool. I mean, hey, he hit 190
Yeah, and there's
on that log.
some world class strongmen there, and he was one of two guys to do it. Uh, Belsack, is it Belshack? Is that how you say it?
Every time different announcers say it differently. I think we just need to meet him, right? That'd be the easiest
Yeah,
way to
I I feel like
figure
you
it out.
you got to go with whatever Colin Bryce says. He seems to have the pronunciations down the best. But
And then we even so according to him though, we say Zavicus wrong because how does he say it? He says it a little bit.
Shavicus.
Yeah, he says it just a little bit differently. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is actually right. That's what I'm saying. I think he's the person who, I mean, he has to say it, during the broadcast of World's Strongest Man. So where it get, the UK version, which probably reaches more people than anyone. So probably the most important place where the names are said. So I'm gonna go with Colin on the
How would
pronunciations.
you how would you pronounce Jean Stefan Corabio?
I would pronounce it Coco.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, everyone calls Coco Coco.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, he made his debut, a 105 kilo competitor. He had like 3 days notice that he was going to do the pro show instead of the amateur after Kilkowski, Shivlikov. I think someone else pulled out as well.
Yeah, Shivlikov was at that Siberian Power Show with Z.
Okay, how small did
Oh, you're gonna know exactly what you're gonna say.
what's the guy's name? Kirill?
Kirill Sarachev.
Yeah, make Shivlikov look. And Shivlikov is huge. I remember I was I competed, in the lightweights, obviously, Arnold Amateur, the year that he won it, and seeing him in the like there was just a corner of the room full of Russians that were slightly intimidating, just sitting there. He won the heavyweights that year, to go pro and go to the Arnold, but like he was huge and intimidating, and next to Kirill, like basically like it's almost a comparison from Shivakov to me or something. It's crazy.
Because I think Kirill is six. He's either 6'4" or 6'6",
He has
and
to be tall.
I think he's about 200 kilos. And
Yeah,
I thought you were going to talk about the picture of him and Zadrunas because he actually, I mean, he doesn't make Zadrunas look small, but he is definitely comparable in size. And Z is getting back to, and you and I talked about this yesterday.
oh yeah,
Z is getting back to world's strongest man shape. That's what
yeah,
I like to.
yeah. He's
But when he gets big, that's WSM shape right there.
yeah, he's not in the Fitspiration. He's gonna have to put the leggings aside for a little bit here soon, hopefully. For his Instagram, you're not seeing too many shredded Z photos unless they're throwback Thursdays like I do with my own coming up, because yeah, he's in
Yeah,
strongman shape.
every 10K on the log seems to come with he's getting a little bit bigger because he cleaned 230 the other day on the log, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah,
But every time he gets a little bit bigger, I mean, he starts putting up some really impressive numbers. Not that all the numbers he puts up aren't impressive, but he gets to all-time PR levels.
sure. Yeah, the bigger he looks, uh, the more likely I keep thinking the world record log's gonna be. But yeah, let's finish up a little chat about Arnold Australia. Um, yeah, it was such a static show. I mean, we have a pretty much log press for max, just such a heavy weight. We have a squat for reps, with 700 pounds. We have, um, the tank pull was interesting. That was like the one moving event. It was actually very
Look
similar to,
pretty safe.
yeah, it was pretty similar to World's Strongest Man, really. I mean, we have stones and a tank pull and some static stuff.
Yeah.
But even more so because there was two presses. You have a circus dumbbell for max. So this would have been a very good show to compete in and train for World's Strongest Man last year, like a little step, and it would have predicted who was going to do well. But
Sure.
the problem with shows like that is it was so close from second to what, sixth, is that there's
Hmm.
not that much separation. We know everyone, we all kind of know what their squad is, what their log is, and it's the other events which allows some amount of separation in the points. Like a farmer's walk, some maybe a medley. I know the Arnolds aren't big for medleys, but it just kind of showed, like, I mean, the first event there was what, 4 people tied with 10 reps or something. Uh,
Yeah.
and you look through the score sheet. There's just so many ties here that it just kept everything close. I guess you could say that made it interesting and fun because everyone was kind of in it to the end. But also, it just it doesn't really allow for much either. Um, I mean, the contest was really won by Rano in the train poll because that's where he picked up the most points, I believe. Like, he was consistent everywhere else, but there was some, a lot of people struggled in the train poll. Um,
Hmm.
and, he really, I think he got third, and he picked up the majority of his points to get his big lead at the end there.
Yeah, because
Basically,
after day one, it was JF and Rano tied, and then yeah,
Martine's half a point behind.
JF.
It's right there.
So yeah, we had the squat, a bunch of ties there. Then the log, only 2 people, Rongo and Belsack hitting 190, and then Trey hit 3 on the log at 170, which is just his PR for a single,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I would say, it's pretty good, flying halfway
Yeah,
across
for
the
sure.
world, cleaning the 190 on his second attempt. He cleaned the 190, then hit 170 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty, and he did it beltless, of course.
Yeah, Trey Mitchell just
Normal,
no nothing really, just pretty much
normal Trey fashion.
probably the easiest person, has the easier time traveling to a strongman contest than anyone. He has his shorts, has the contest shirt, a pair of shoes, and he's good. Maybe some socks.
Maybe some socks. I wish he still had the deadlift shorts. They were just shredded.
Yeah, those are for
Oh, those were
training,
long.
man. Um,
This and then the 17-inch deadlift was pretty cool looking.
yeah, it was weird though that there was like they made them wait like 5 to 10 seconds between them putting the weight on, so you had people just strapped into a bar for a long time. So I'm sure some of their backs felt amazing,
See,
because
so
it was such a
six. They
long
had
time.
6 pull. Yeah, 6 pulls starting at 400 for Rano and JF. That's quite a bit, and then no one else went above. That's interesting. I mean, they both hung with it for 460, 480, 500, but no one else made it above 440.
Yeah, and then again, they're big, three-way tie at 440.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was just real close. The tank pole is cool. I heard rumors. I don't know how true it is that no one could pull it with a rope because it
Hmm.
was really heavy. The thing you have to take into account with tanks and stuff like that, or any sort of vehicle pull, it's not just the overall weight, but the rotating mass, right? And so I've
Well, don't get all sciency on us, Kale. Are you saying that some things are harder to pull than others?
yeah, I'm saying that like 15,000 pounds doesn't mean 15,000 pounds.
Yeah.
It's actually why planes are easier to pull for the most part than trucks because they have the little teeny wheels. There's like there's no drivetrain going through a plane. They don't take off from their wheels. Those are just a roll on, so they roll easier. So you can pull a bigger equivalent plane. That's why if you get like a big lifted monster truck with like a an oversized tire, it's harder to turn it over each time versus a semi, which is designed to just go down the road, and like a tank which I don't know exactly how tanks are made, but it looks like their rotating mass, the things that actually move to get them going, is probably pretty heavy, and they're meant to crawl. So I assume,
And
it's going to make it harder than the equivalent of, like a semi truck pull. But
so before we get past day one, though, I think we should mention, Terry Hollins. Did he attempt the deadlift, or did he pull out before the deadlift?
no, I don't think he
'Cause he
even
did.
attempted it. He didn't attempt it, and then he said, I think something was bothering him in his hip or his shoulder, and he has Europe's coming up and World's Strongest Man, and from what I remember him posting, he said, I'm going to do the tank pull tomorrow, and that's it.
What's interesting about Terry, and people, I guess people that don't know as much about strongman, they'll look at Terry and go like, man, he shouldn't have dropped all that weight, and I can't believe he didn't do great at this competition. Like Kalle and I talked about yesterday via text, he'll probably podium in Europe's.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll just drop out of this and be like, he's not feeling it. He's like, I'm just not. I'm good. He doesn't have a problem doing that. I mean, he's not. I guess he must be ego driven less than a lot of people. Because he doesn't. If he's not feeling, if he thinks he's going to get hurt, he'll pull out. He'll
He's
pull out of
done
the
that
show.
for years.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I think a lot of people discredit him because he'll do all these smaller shows and, place maybe 8th at them, and then win, and then he'll go and make the finals at World's Strongest Man again.
Yep.
So, especially with, how big British strongman's gotten in the past couple years, and that, his style of strongman's, that his success is pretty much the exact opposite of Eddie Hall, which is gonna, I think, I see a lot of bullshit written about Terry online saying I saw someone mention like he's not even the strongest man on his block. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I like when he responds to those
Oh, he
people.
kills them.
He'll say like something, mate, like, how many times has my neighbor podiumed at Europe's, mate? Something like that.
Yeah, you can't discredit Terry Holland's accomplishments. He's just
No. What was he on the Fortissimus list? I mean, he's pretty.
He was in the top 10, and that's where I'm saying like people were like he didn't understand.
Yeah.
Like he's competed a lot for a long time, and he's podiumed and won at major shows. He's podiumed at Worlds twice. He's taken 3rd, I think. Like,
Oh wait,
at
yeah,
least once.
podium twice. Yeah,
Yeah.
podium twice. Yeah. 2011, I think. Someone will correct me. Craig Pfister will correct me.
Yeah.
So he's 9 on the all-time ranking, just behind. Have you ever heard of a Bill Kazmaier? He's just behind Kaz in the all-time ranking for strongman.
It's not as fair because there was less contests when Kaz was doing it,
Right.
and he was banned from World's Strongest Man for 5 years. Blah 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 blah. But Terry's has plenty
It's just
of
years and
accomplishments in the
years.
sport.
Yeah, they based this on 340 competitions in 13 categories between 77 and 2017. So this is about as good as it's going to get until Craig Pfister makes his own program and then re-ranks them all.
Sure.
And it'll probably be more accurate.
I
He'd
feel
be like, actually, they didn't account for these competitions here that I have on VHS.
Yeah, I think it was a good list. Obviously it favors people that competed more, but that's that's how some records work that are cumulative. Like, most all-time rushing records. Do people think Emmitt Smith's the best running back of all time? No, but he might. That record might have been broken by now. I haven't kept up on normal sports, but just an example. He might not be the best, but he did the most, rushing yards because he was resilient, which is also a skill. Being able to just keep competing is a skill in itself. But yeah, I don't, and people need to remember that strongman isn't powerlifting with a log, with a log, a deadlift, and maybe a farmer's walk or something thrown in. It's only in the past couple of years that it's become this statically driven, and a lot of people enjoy it. But I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more carries and some 2-3 part medleys or something thrown in here, and then it would completely change. Not maybe so much at like 1, 2, 3, but that result changes who's fourth through 10th for sure, depending
You know,
on
that's
what
actually
kind of events.
probably a good idea for the next starting strongman shirt. Strongman. It's more than just powerlifting with a yoke and some farmer's walks.
Yeah, man. Yeah, uh, I'm over the shirts, but it, it,
I
it
like the progression. I like the progression
yeah, that's a
strongman shirt.
good
That's
one.
still my
That's a
favorite.
good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't. Everything goes in trends. We see it. We see it all
Hmm.
come and go. If you look back long enough, history ends up repeating itself. And I feel, we've talked about in the past that it's pretty much gotten to where it can be statically, and there needs to be, some amount of there's go the other way. And if you look at the events for Worlds, it looks like there's more of those same, you could call them classic kind of events. There's a
Hmm.
loading medley and stuff like that, and it completely changes how things shake up.
During
But
the tank pull the next day, did Terry pull it in exactly the time limit? Did he finish right when the clock stopped at 60 seconds?
I guess so.
Yeah. And I guess he just barely beat Martins on that. I'm sorry, Martins barely beat him on that
Yeah,
59.62.
yeah,
But
Martin.
that was an interesting event.
Yeah, because they put the ladders up, and it reminded me. What was it? There's the year that Worlds had
The train
the
pull.
train pole in Africa, in
Yes.
Africa. Well,
Yep.
2002 ish or so, some 2001 maybe
Oh, it was a
Zambia.
while.
But yeah, and then they did on the tracks. I don't know if this was planned or not. I think if it was like, how are we going to get these people to be able to move this tank? It was brilliant to come up with that. So they have like an aluminum ladder set up under the tank, so and secured. Who knows how the hell they secured all that? The
Hmm.
force being put through that ladder, and they're stepping off each rung and pulling on it at the same time. Judging by how some of the competitors went, I don't think that they were made aware that that was how it's going to be, because you saw a lot of different techniques and not too many of them looked very efficient. I'm sure it was heavier, but it's that kind of style is going to be different than arm pull with a rope for sure.
Bring back the train pull. That's a good.
It
But
was
then they'd have
cool.
to go back to what Zambia? Where
Or
was that?
anywhere that has a track, I guess.
But that scenery
Oh,
in
look
that
cool.
particular World Tournament, man, was phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely look cool. But yeah, it was a good event. A local competitor, Eddie Williams, absolutely crushed everybody in it. I mean, we had what, 6 people finish it at all, and 3 of those were just about at the bell, and
Mhm.
Eddie Williams did it in 36.36 seconds. So
Then
he,
Trey had set. It was in second.
yeah, Trey looked phenomenal on it. Um,
Yeah.
and that kind of brings up the point when I was talking about, you know, that a lot of people want to say how strong they are in like their bench and their deadlift before they do strongman. Eddie Williams, who set that, because this was documented by Guinness for a world record tank pull, so he set
Hmm.
a Guinness World Record in that event. I can pretty much guarantee he probably has a worse powerlifting numbers than anyone else that he competed against that day.
Sure.
He's like I think his logs are like around maybe 160, maybe 150.
Hmm.
Even Terry Hollins isn't that. His logs not that right around there probably too. I think he's maybe. I don't know if Eddie Williams even got a squat or maybe just one or two. Yeah, or I guess he got four, which is pretty
Let's
decent on
see.
the squat, but still like
He had four,
at 705.
and then zero the log. Yeah.
Yeah, and zero the
Zero
deadlift
the
and
deadlift.
zero the dumbbell, but pretty much beat everyone with just about twice as fast of a time in a tank pull. He happens to
Yeah.
be a giant guy, and he did the Atlas stones with no shoes on, and it looked like probably because he just couldn't find anything that could fit. His feet were so damn big. Um, but it just I just want to reiterate that, like, there's no one-to-one comparison with that kind of stuff. Your squat's not going to say how you
Not
can
at all.
pull a truck. Probably being 6'8" and 180 kilos, and whatever sports background he had before this, maybe some rugby, just driving into people or whatever. I'd imagine it would make sense if you did something like that. Is going to translate to a tank pull. Whatever.
And even someone like since we're talking about people that don't necessarily aren't their static strength isn't in the top 10 in the world. Look at Pujanowski. I mean, that was never his forte. It wasn't static strength. I was trying to think. I don't even know what his best deadlift ever was.
Right around.
I'm sure it was over. Okay, right around 400. And now, I mean, 400 is still an outstanding deadlift, but it's not top 10 anymore. No. And he could still hang in these events because he was just so damn athletic, and he had that resilience and and just technically he was skilled.
Yeah, but
he probably would have done awesome that tank pull. He probably could have come out of the ring right now and won the tank pull. Probably.
Yeah, stepped right out of the MMA ring.
And Jared Dimmick would have been on the side with another stopwatch.
Always.
Yeah. Actually, 36.01. He beat Eddie Williams.
Absolutely. And to that point, you bring up events that we haven't seen a lot. I guess we saw the elephant carry at Worlds last year. But max distance front carries, is there even someone today that could beat Marius at one in his peak? Like maybe
that's
Thor?
tough.
Maybe Thor.
He was also so fast. I mean, he could cover that distance really quickly. Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one.
But I'm just strongman's just it's gotten more that way, but I really think it's going to push back the other way.
Pendulum will come back
for sure.
But the next event, another static max monster dumbbell.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, man, the heartbreaking Dimitar misses. I mean, he was so close with that dumbbell.
Yeah, with the 145 for the world record. I guess he'll be for it again this summer in Glenn Ross's contest, Summer Mania. I think the same place he broke it last year. So maybe that's his special dumbbell.
He actually looked really strong cleaning it. I mean, there's some dumbbells that are, a lot tougher for him to clean, but he cleaned it pretty easily.
For sure.
Just a little bit. I mean, and once you're kind of done, I don't know that Dimitar's ever missed a world record really close and then gone right back and been able to get it.
I'm not sure.
But it just takes so much out of you.
Yeah. I want people to pay attention. If they go watch the video of his world record attempt, look at how his hips are shifted over to the side underneath the dumbbell. That's something that so many people miss out on the circus dumbbell, which all the people that are really good at it do, where they're not standing upright. They lean their hips, so your hips more in line right underneath that dumbbell, and that you can see how much better. Like, he just shoots it up, with his leg drive.
Are you saying it's less of a press and more of a very technical movement?
Oh, 100% the dumbbell is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the least. Obviously, Dimitar is a great presser in general, and you need the strength to be able to stabilize it. But if you look at, you can just look at the results from here to the log, and it's not a one-to-one. Like, it's not the same order that people finished in, right? In the same contest. There's obviously some overlap, but, on who did well. But it's for sure the most technical overhead event, in my opinion, especially when it's for a max. For reps, it's a little different. And in my opinion, the least static, that favors static strength, with like Viking press being number one. And maybe log.
Yeah, like Zydrunas, his forte has never been the dumbbell. No. I mean, technically, he's not as strong as Dimitar on the dumbbell, but he's just so. I mean, if you go back and look at when he hit the 300-pound dumbbell a couple of years ago at the Arnold, he just, it's just brute strength. He puts it up there.
Yeah.
A little bit of a jerk, but kind of like a push press, and then just a press out. So, whereas Dimitar is just crazy explosive, in addition to being very, very strong and having that stability in his shoulder. Because you have to be able to, to hold it up there. We talked about that even with log, and we'll get into that a little more. A lot of guys have the pressing power, but to put over 200 kg log over their head, but it's the the holding it up there,
That's the difference
and
when
not
you're
not
getting.
falling over.
Yeah, that's 100% the difference when you're getting up into those weights, is having the stability. Um, so we go into the Atlas stones, the heaviest stone series of all time. Will still be the heaviest stone series. Pretty sure it was the heaviest stone series of all time, as only
230, yeah, that's a heavy,
505
heavy log,
pounds,
heavy stone to finish with. Yeah,
and no one did it. I think people are capable of it, but on this day, uh, it just wasn't meant to be. Uh, let's say underrated at stones, Rano Hanla.
yeah, yeah,
So
I'm
he
actually surprised. I'm kind of surprised Martins didn't get the fourth one. He just looked tired.
he obliterated the first three and made them look very effortless. And then I saw
Yeah.
Karan, and he just couldn't grip the
Hmm.
fourth one. It just kept sliding out of his
Yeah.
tacky. And I saw Karan say that you need to move them this way, like how people say like he was just gripping it. They're brand new stones, and sometimes you want them so your arm contact is on the spot that's like the least dusty or that has the best grip. And I think that's
Yep.
what went wrong, because he had a little Karan talked to him about it, after. So I think
Gotcha.
it's just a technical issue, and that's part of playing a sport.
And then Trey, I don't think Trey. He probably couldn't. He wouldn't have been able to take Martins on that. I mean, Martins was about 8 seconds faster, but Trey was pretty damn quick
Yeah,
getting to that third stone.
yeah, he did
I
the
mean, he was
first
flying.
first three. He bobbled. He actually was probably about as quick as Martins,
Hmm.
but he missed the load. He just bobbled it
Yep.
on the third, and then had to redo it again. So still, taking fifth overall, 21 seconds when he had to do the third stone twice, pretty much, and the fourth just looked a little too heavy for him to extend with at this point. I don't, the fourth is what, 215 kilos. That's definitely a
That's a
priority.
huge. That's a huge jump.
But he still lapped it.
170, yeah, 170, 180, 190, 215. You
Yeah,
jump up 50 pounds. That's double the distance between the previous two. The difference between the previous two stones.
yeah, but looked good. I think he it looked. The thing I liked watching Trey out there, and obviously we're gonna be a bit of homers, talking to him. I've seen this guy compete forever as an amateur. You've known him very well going down to Texas. We just had him on the podcast, but he looked like he was having the time of his life. Like seeing him in the background, he was smiling, and he doesn't seem to be like the most emotional person when he competes. When I tell, but you could see that like he's been trying to go pro for like the last couple of years and just missing out, and now he's competing against everyone, and he just looked like, yep, I did it and I belong, and he just looked happy, and it was cool.
Yeah, man. I mentioned it on the podcast. First competition I ever competed with him against at the end of 2012. I said he'll go to Worlds, and that's maybe a good note to close on for the Arnold Australia. Ronald Heinle cleaned up. I mean, he had a 10-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
JF Caron got second, just ahead of Martins, who's just ahead of Belsac, who was just ahead of Trey, just ahead of Dimitar, and then everyone else was a little bit further back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Trey will get an alternate call for Worlds this year, and I'm going to say he gets an alternate call and ends up competing. What do you think?
I think that all the Americans are pretty picked by now is the problem. There's already a lot of people that
Well,
have
they
qualified.
are, but you always know how there's always that last minute. Hey, this guy can't get off
Oh, for
work or
sure.
this happened. So I think he should. I think it was a good call that he got his first international show out of the way that wasn't Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he doesn't go this year, he'll go next year.
Yeah, I think there's a good. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he got an alternate call. I know the Arnold's and World's Strongest Man aren't connected, but I'm sure that people still pay attention. And
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it. People pay attention.
he is qualified to do the North America Giants Live qualifier coming up. So I'm sure he'll, if not this soon, because they're just all the spots are picked out, he'll definitely get noticed there, and wouldn't doubt it at all he makes it again.
Well, I guess we could transition into talking about we're just going to talk about log lift world championship, right?
Yeah, there's. I need to do a little bit more research on Europe's before we go into that, and we've already talked for 30 minutes or so, and there's a lot to talk about the log lift world championships. Something interesting I've found is how we've seen it in past years with the deadlift world championships, but how much more hype and excitement is there for a single lift event than a full contest? Like, it just seems to be, and I know and I think it's good that there's excitement for strongman, but I think powerlifting, this ended up being a problem in powerlifting previously,
Hmm.
where you notice that people just started worrying about records and individual records, and there came a point where people in powerlifting don't even compete against each other really. They compete against some scoreboard on a website, and it would be
Yeah,
bad.
they compete against powerlifting watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would be bad if strongman kind of goes that same route. Um,
I don't. I don't know. I see your point that it could go that route, but I don't think it will, and I don't quite know why. And I'm going to say maybe it's the European interest in the sport that would keep that from happening.
yeah, I think it's that, and that European interest means that there's actual money to break them at certain contests where there isn't so much in powerlifting. Maybe to some extent, but not to the extent of strongman. And if we've been seeing, and I gotta admit, like, as a fan, I find it fun to see all the big numbers being put up, and I'm definitely paying more attention to who's putting up what in a log than I am who's doing what in every other event for Europe's.
Yeah.
So, and there's big money, and that's why you can tell. That's why I think it's highly likely that the record gets broken, because everyone likes to say that they do the sport for the love of it, and you do, but when there's that extra incentive, and we're talking uh, I think it's around 15 grand or so for a new world record, from what I've gathered,
That's pretty good.
for one lift, one event. Walk
Not
away with
bad.
a cool 15 G's. I think that that's a little extra incentive to be like, you know what, I'm really gonna train log for this. Maybe if I'm Zadrunas, I'm gonna put on a 20 kilos in a month. Like, you're gonna do what it takes to give you the best opportunity to, come home with that cash and that title.
So let's see. Who do we think? And you know who we didn't add to that list? I mean, Thor's competing too, and
Sure.
I think he'll hit something that people won't expect.
Definitely
And
not win the event, but people don't
no,
give him
I don't
enough
think he'll
credit.
win the event. But I think he could, kind of like a few years ago at Europe, he randomly, people did not expect him to pull 450,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came out and he pulled a big PR at 450. I could see him hitting 215, 474. I could see that, just, and everyone going, "Oh, okay,
I'm trying to think of
I guess he could do that."
what the Icelandic record is. I think it's just over 200 kilos.
I was trying to think if he's done 200 in competition,
No, he's
because
definitely done 200. I think.
he never hit the Australian Oak.
Mm-hmm.
He never got a rep with that.
You,
And then at Worlds,
you
he
sure he
didn't.
didn't
I
get
mean,
reps on it the last year, or no, that was Shaw that got a bunch. But I think
yeah. No.
the year
Oh,
they
wait, wait,
lightened
wait.
it.
No, you're right.
They lightened
That
it
was
though.
yeah, you're right. It was. Yeah, I take it back. He never hit it on the main stage. He hit it on the night stage last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he did do 3
But
at
it was
4. Yeah, I guess that was about 430,
yeah.
and he's stronger. 430, 440, and he's stronger this year. I'm gonna say he hits, I don't know, 460, 470,
210.
somewhere around there. 210. Okay, so that's I guess we'll go down the list.
We got Thor.
Let's start with who do we start with?
Let's go with Iron Bibby.
Go with Iron Baby. Okay, so let's see. He did that crazy medley at the Giants Live. Smoke that. What's his training PR?
It's hard to say. I think he competed at, like, there was a North American log championships where again, like that dual citizenship thing, he set a Canadian record, but
The 442.
hmm So yeah, he's
See
right
that
around
last week.
200. He has. This is something I want to put, just point out. People are saying there's it for sure once he uses, because you see these big like seated strict presses posted. Eddie Hall just put one up. Iron Bibby has one doing like 500 pounds with a barbell, and I'll see the comments where people say, "Well, once he stands up and is able to use his legs, he's going to do way more," and that is completely false. That's the wrong way to look at it. When you're a beginner or you're more intermediate, you can
Hmm.
use more legs doing a push press than you can do a seated press. But all of these guys at this level, once you have that stability of sitting down and driving, into a pad, they can do a lot of weight. Pretty much anyone on this list can do a 500-pound seated strict press.
There you go.
I
You heard it
know.
here, folks.
I know, like my best log was around 290, and I can, back then I could seated strict press like, especially when you're leaning back a little bit, like they all do. Well over, probably 315, I think I did. So,
Hmm.
I never hit a
So what do you
315
think?
log.
What's Bibby good for?
The log's so
210.
the log's so technical. I think he puts up 205 to 210, somewhere in there. It
Okay.
depends on the jumps, because that's the other thing we have to
Okay.
really point out with the log lift world
Yep.
championships is there's going to be. It's not necessarily, some guy might have been good for 2 or 5 kilos more, and we saw this at the deadlift championships where they pick the attempts. Is there's going to be a big log jam at certain attempts, right? Because they're going to make a huge jump. They're going to have
A log jam on log. I like that.
yeah, there's going to be a log jam on the log for sure. They're going to have a jump for like Obi and Kearney to break the American record. They're going to have another, which is also right around the British record. So there's going to be a jump because they want, and then there's going to be probably a jump like right from there to the world record, which is silly, but that's probably how it's going to be.
Yeah. So that would be okay. So if we go to Kearney and Obi next,
So yeah, Obi has,
so 211, 211's the current
Mhm.
that Obi set a couple through 2-3 years ago,
yeah, at least.
and that broke Jenkins' record that was 210.
Yeah, and Hicks has the British record at 212. So it'll probably be something like 213 to 215. So it'll probably go like 160, 180, maybe even straight to 200.
Oof.
Then
I think they'll do 190.
They
I think it'll go
probably will.
160, 190, 200, and then 200 to 213.
yeah, which will make a
You know,
big
for
log
Obi.
jam at 200.
Yep.
And
So I say that Hicks, Obi, and Kearney are all good for 213, and that's depending on how they feel that day, that I think they can all hit 213.
and I think Hall
Kearney
too.
Kearney is gonna, because not only does he have the strength, but he has a lot. If his technique is spot on that day with that log, he's definitely good for more.
And we just saw a training video, which I think is reported at 472, give or take. And from what I remember, Rob Kearney always hits way more in contests than he does in training.
And he won. I mean, he won. Was it last year or the year before that he won the world
He
championship? It
won
was
the
2
World
years ago, right?
Championship 2 years ago, and he won North America against Iron Bibby this last year.
So yeah, Kearney. Oh man, if they go from, I really hope they don't go 213 is straight to 230.
I really hope so. That's possible, and that would. But I hope 220 is in the mix. I hope they go 220 then 230.
Yeah, that'd be the smart thing to do. Go 200, 213, 220, 230.
Yeah, because even then,
I think.
there's how many 220-pound, 220 kilo log presses have there ever been, other than by Z? I think Radzikowski has 217 is his highest.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that'd be super impressive.
I think the closest other than Z we've ever seen to 220 was when Jenkins attempted at Worlds, right?
Yep, when he had it locked out and then just could, or he had it locked out with one arm and then he couldn't lock out his I think his left tricep, and that's when he jacked his knee up.
Yeah, yeah, that's the closest.
So what do you think? I mean, is Obi, Kearney, and Hicks at 220? What do you think?
Ooh, it's tough. It's tough for a bunch of different reasons for all of them. But yeah, I think they're all capable of it on the right day. It's just the logs. Again, it comes down to who can stabilize it at the top. For other people, I think maybe Kearney. It comes down to the clean. Obi sometimes has a little bit of trouble with the clean, but he can usually get it. It's just how much does that clean take out of him. I think for Eddie Hall, this comes down to how healthy his back is, but I'm going to get into that in a bit. And Radzikowski, it comes down to the clean. I think if he gets it to his shoulders, he can definitely press 220, but he always struggles with
I think
clean.
So also with Radzikowski, let me look at that video the other day because he's had tricep surgery, several tricep tears.
Mm-hmm.
So that because he hit 215 the other day, but his right tricep was lagging a little bit still. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it might feel really good. I mean, he's definitely strong enough to hit 220. You know, if he's on, Radzikowski can hit 220.
And I'm telling you, like, there's money through like 1 through 5 on placings in the log, so you know, there's that extra motivation there. Like, even if they don't get a world record or first, they're still getting some decent money if they end up getting second or third. Well, it's better than a lot of people in contests.
And then that leaves us with Eddie and Z.
Yeah. So let's spend a little bit of time here. We got Zydrunas Savickas. He's had his neck / shoulder issue he's been dealing with for the past 3 or so years. Then he became lean Z. His log dipped a little bit there for a bit, but it's hard to say because there's people reporting how heavy his log was, you know, in his training videos, but Z isn't posting any weights. And by him not posting weights, he's getting more publicity for this show than everyone else saying they hit these big numbers. And I love it. It's back to that. I remember, you know, not so much now, but Z was so like mysterious. I'm like, what does he do? How does he train? And him just
so what's interesting
weights brings back that whole lore that he had for a long time.
I read the comments on a lot of these videos because sometimes Z will actually respond to them when he says it weighs this much.
Yeah.
But someone goes, there's a discussion in there, and then someone says, check out his post from February 3rd. He says it's this much. So look at the plates, and if they weigh this much, but it does, it makes it
exactly.
It makes it interesting, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh yeah, it's
building it up.
Eddie has the way of 100% calling out what he's going to do, and Z has the exact opposite approach. And when you bring both of where he's just not saying anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just puts up a post like on Facebook of him smiling with like some monument in the background before and goes log great, like his last thing before.
Yeah.
But when you bring both of those approaches together, it's really fun as a fan and to speculate on what's actually going on. Like if you just have the Zydrunas approach, I think it's get boring. But
so I don't think there's a question that Eddie's strong enough to do it. But it's the stability and how healthy his back is.
Mm-hmm.
So if he hit that, let's see. So we hit the 213 a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's definitely capable of 220. 230 though with let's see how much. Let's see how this 213 is. That is a pretty sweet log.
And
he uses his legs a little bit.
The advantage that Eddie has is I think the log he trains on is the exact same, not the exact same log, but it's made by the same
length.
Yeah, so it's the same, and that's a big advantage.
It's a smart advantage. I'm still surprised, and as I mentioned to you before, I can't believe more people didn't make the Austrian oak for themselves.
Right.
Uh, back when the Arnold and it'll come back, but is $1,000 really, or $1,500 really not a worthwhile investment if you're talking about winning 20 grand?
Yeah.
And there might be more to it than that, but I mean you could, there's some intelligent people out there that could definitely duplicate some of these implements,
Sure.
especially now. I mean, the number of people making awesome strongman equipment has, I don't know, quadrupled, some sort of exponential increase over the past decade.
Yeah, insane increase. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I I have a really hard time discount like wanting to discount that Eddie Hall is not capable of doing something. I have a really hard time saying that because he tends to do what he says he's going to do, right?
Yep.
Other than doing the full contest here or there, but I'm just kidding. I don't need the Eddie Hall troll army out against me again. I'm going to say nice things.
And that's another point. The troll army. That's a good one.
Yeah, but
Just because another person gets talked about as doing well at a competition doesn't mean that Eddie Hall won't win or can't win. It's just, man, like we talked about before with Thor. Just before we started this, if Thor posts a picture of his dog, they'll be like, "Well, Eddie Hall has a larger dog or a smaller dog."
yeah,
And or if Thor posts a picture of his dog, he'll be like, "My dog won this competition." Well, Eddie Hall's dog won this competition. It's actually more reputable.
yeah. Uh,
You know?
Thor posts a picture of a steak. Eddie Hall eats 2 steaks.
Yeah, actually, this is a better cut of meat.
Yeah.
The cow that was killed for Eddie Hall's meal was actually a prize cow that was, it's never going to stop. But
No,
it does make it a little bit interesting.
it's good. That means that there's casual fans, and casual
It
fans
is. It's
are
good.
fanatics. They're not thinking rationally about things. And I have my own bias, and you have your own bias, and I try to put them aside as much as I can. And I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But still like but those people, they're just so it's the same way people are about football teams here, or what is soccer here but football in the UK. Like, they're just like, nope, they're the best, the other people are shit, they eat, they're awful people, and they vilify the
They're
other
always
side.
killing kittens on the
Yeah.
weekends. Yeah.
So but it's
I
good
knew a
that
guy that knew him. Yeah.
it's a sign that the sport's growing. And I thank you for the previous YouTube views. I will be able to go to the grocery store off of the money you made off that video. So again, thanks, Eddie Hall Troll Army. Anyways, on to him doing the well, I want to point out something out first. He's not going to do the full contest. I don't think so. Because you saw he put up on Instagram his little checklist of all the things he's accomplished, and there was still an X under the 230 log. There wasn't under Europe's, and he's always had that on his list, right? So that's very calculated on his way. He didn't have winning Europe's Strongest Man as a thing, and he's so smart in how he approaches everything he does in strongman. He's incredibly statically strong, but he doesn't do things that he knows. Like, he's like, this isn't my best option, to get the result, and to keep building his legacy and his way to be the strongest man that ever lived. Not necessarily the best strong,
And making a living.
and making a living, which is great. And this sport has chewed up and spit out so many people that everyone forgets about 5 years after the fact, and they have nothing to show for it other than some memories and some trophies. That I really commend Eddie Hall for doing, how he's approached strongman as a business and navigated his career. And I hope more people do it that way and are able to use it versus it use them.
Well, you use the word navigate, so people are going to make comments. Actually, he's commanded his career technically, Kale.
Whatever. But the issues are, we saw at Britain's on the yoke especially, and he said that he had like a dislocated hip. He just said on his seated log press video that he he twisted his ankle or something fighting bears. On that 213 video, he said he meant to go up to 220 that day, but just didn't feel right. So I just don't know how healthy his back and hips are to be able to stabilize 500 pounds at the top on that big of a wooden log. I know he's strong enough to press it. It's just, how is the clean going to work? Will he be able to stabilize it? Right?
And that goes that same for Zydrunas.
Yes.
You know, we talked about it. Zydrunas can put that 500 log above his head.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not he can hold it there for the down call, it'll be tough.
And, you know, like even in the previous, 3 or so Zydrunas's logs, like there's a quick down. He hasn't really held any of those, honestly. Like, you know, compared to some other standards, they're quick. I'm not discounting that they weren't reps or anything, but that's a quick down call. And, you know, it's not held up there for very long because that's as long as he could hold that weight up there. You know, like that's the hard part. It's just the having the strength in your upper back and your scapula, your core and everything to hold up that kind of weight at this moment in time seems to be the limiting factor on the log.
All right, let's go. All right, so pop quiz here. So we're going, first question, will the record be broken?
No.
Okay, second question. If someone was to break it, who's the most likely?
Zydrunas.
Okay, and dark horse to break the record?
Eddie Hall. Or, I'd say him or...
I'm going to go Radzikowski.
Yeah, well, I guess Eddie's, you wouldn't consider him a dark horse. You know, like if we're going off betting odds, he'd probably be 1 and 2 as Zydrunas. So yeah, I go Radzikowski's the dark horse to break it. I think we're gonna see a couple people do 220.
I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna go dark horse to break it as Kearney.
Yeah, I was.
I'm gonna say if Kearney, if his jerk is spot on, that he can do it, because, you know, not to discount that strength, but the jerk is a more technical lift. It's a more efficient way of putting it overhead, but most people just can't do it. And Kearney can do it well. And if you compare the heaviest clean and jerk ever, I think it's still 266. Someone will probably, some listener will shoot me for that. I don't even know if Craig Pfister would know, but I think it's Taranenko's 266. But that's significantly heavier than this. Totally different implement. But it is with a split jerk. So Kearney is about as efficient as anyone ever. I'd say he's pretty.
More than Misha, I'll say it.
I think
he is.
I think with the
log, not with
the log,
jerk.
he is. Yeah, I think with the log he is more efficient than Misha was. So we'll see. I think I'll take him as the dark horse with Rads as a close second.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get 220, but let's go under that. Let's say Kearney hits 230 on the log with a split jerk. Eddie Hall gets it.
Comments.
Eddie Hall strict presses it, just doesn't stabilize it at lockout. What happens to the internet?
Oh, internet is going to explode. Split jerk isn't real. They should ban it from strongman. Why? Oh, my God. They shouldn't give him any money. It's not a record. Did he really bring his feet together? I mean...
Everything.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping that happens. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I'd feel bad for Kearney. But you know what? He would know that he...
feel bad for Kearney. He's got a cool... His bank account's fat. He's got the record. Yep. He walks away. His boyfriend's cute as hell. He ain't nothing to complain about.
Fiance.
He's got yeah, you're right. His fiance.
I think they're married.
Joey.
Pretty sure they're getting married. And I need to get one of his shirts. I still haven't gotten one. Yeah. That's a pretty badass shirt. Unicorn Power. I like it a lot.
Little Kearney on there. Yeah, and he's got a cool bulldog. Can't feel bad for him.
And he's going to Worlds again. I guess he's doing just fine.
Yeah, I think that would be fun if we're playing how we could turn this out. But I'm saying like Eddie or Zydrunas are both on that world record attempt, need to get it as close to locking out with as little of leg drive as possible, but not getting the down.
Yep.
In the scenario.
And then Kearney needs to smoke it with a split jerk.
Yeah. And then just slowly bring his feet together. Doesn't look
Ah,
like by the novice's standards, it didn't even look like he used any shoulder power. He just caught it. Oh, that'd be
yeah.
great.
So he used magic.
On
Yeah,
that.
and that they make shirts. Let's ban witchcraft and strongman.
All right, you heard it here. You heard it here first. The log world record gets broken by a split jerk by Robert Kearney, and that's how it's going to go down.
There you go.
Fun times, yeah. But I think there's a good chance. I don't think it gets broken. I always am a little conservative on my picks. I did, and I might change it before I get to there though, because because I didn't believe Eddie Hall was going to do 500 kilos until I wrote my preview like the 3 days before for Flow Elite, and I was like, I think he's going to do it. So
Yep.
I'm always a little hesitant to see things. The main reason I'm saying that I don't think it's going to get broken is when was the last time that the world record was hitting on a wooden log? They're just harder.
There you go. There you go. That's actually a point we probably could have discussed early. That's a great point.
Yeah. I think if it was a short, stubby steel log, I think it easily gets broken and goes a little higher. But a long wooden log has, I think the heaviest ever. We got to look at what was the heaviest wooden log press ever. It's a lot less than 230, and I think they should kind of be two separate records.
I agree, and I think damn.
Yeah, we don't need to get into
it's
elephant bar.
Yeah, we'll standardize. We'll save standardized strongman equipment for another episode.
All right, but I think this is good. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for listening to Strong Talk. I'm Kalle Beck. Of course, follow me at Let Kalle Lift. Business account at Starting Strongman. That's Michael Battolino. Follow him at Chrono Strength. Go on iTunes wherever you're listening to this. Hit like, subscribe, all those things. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies.
Tell your frenemies.
Yeah, tell everybody, and we'll see what happens. And you all have a good day.
See ya.